Hey guys, it's Joe with Unity Code Tutorials. Welcome to the next tutorial. I believe this is the fifth one. Yep, this is the fifth one. So before we get started, I noticed something that we should do here for the plugin that we use to download those vehicles. This Area 730 folder. I already deleted it, but there's a folder under here that's called Update Manager. Just go ahead and delete it because all we're using it for is the models. And it was making messages pop up, and it's just confusion that we don't need right now. So just go ahead, don't delete this folder. The folder that you need to delete, I've already deleted, so you won't see it, but it's called Update Manager, and it's in this Area 730 folder. Just go ahead and delete that, and you should be good. Okay, so in this tutorial, we're going to actually shoot down the tanks. So I'm going to show you what we have here so far. I changed the bullet. I changed the texture on the bullet so we can see it better. Now we're going to make it actually act more like a bullet. These are more like bowling balls. And what we want to do is we want to shoot the tank, hit the tank, take it out, and then we want it to allow us to score somehow. And now I don't know if we'll get to the scoring. It depends on how long it takes to actually take the tank out. But first, I want to make these bullets not act like this. So what we need to do, I believe we did it, it's not on the turret, but it's on the pylon, which is part of the turret. Okay, so this does not have to do with the speed of the projectile. So we need to go to the turret bullet actually in our prefabs folder here, and then if we go to the projectile script, the speed at which it projects at, why don't we change that to 2000. Okay, so now it's going faster. I think that's better. Now we don't want it to droop down. Let's have it just go straight, so let's not use gravity. Okay, so if we're not using gravity, it's just going to keep going. Now we do remember that we have our destroy after time seconds, after a certain amount of seconds here, destroy after time script. So if it goes indefinitely, it will destroy itself after too long, so we don't have to worry about too many bullets. Now the tanks, they don't have that yet. So that's why these tanks just keep piling up and piling up. And we might actually destroy them a different way, because we don't want to destroy them after a certain amount of time. It would be more like when they get to a certain point, or something along those lines. But this tutorial, we're not worried about that. So let's go ahead and get started. We need to take a look at one of our tanks. This is the tank I've been using for an example. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that one on and focus on it. Now in order for the bullet to hit the tank, it needs to have a collider around it. So let's kind of inspect this tank a little. It's made up of all these different objects. These objects do not have colliders though. And the reason I know that is because if you look at one of these other things, I believe this might have it. No, it does not. Okay, well let's take a look at our bullet. Our bullet, it has a sphere collider right here. Now the physics system needs colliders to know if objects actually collide with each other and touch each other. So our bullet's going to need a collider, which it has one, but our tank is also going to need one. So let's go to this tank here, and we can go ahead and do add component. Well, I want to do it this way to show you the different kinds of colliders. If you go to the component menu, go to the physics tab here, we have different kinds of colliders. Now the most simple one to do is a box collider. These other ones are good for different things, but a box collider in this case is very simple. We'll just make a box around it, so if it gets hit, it gets hit. Okay, so now we've got our box collider here. We need to resize it and make it actually fit the object. Make sure it didn't make it super big or something. So, as you can see, it's really tiny. So what this is here is this is the positioning of it, and then this is the size of it. So let's start by scaling it up. Maybe no, that's definitely not even close. 15. Okay, so we can see the collider here, and now we can actually just drag like this so that we can, okay, that's going the other way. So we can start with that. Let's rotate around here. Make sure it's wide enough. So we're just going to drag this and get it to a good point. Kind of check it out in the corners there. Ooh, so it's not quite there. Okay, that looks good. Now we need to move it back a little bit. So this is just where the center of the collider is. So we're going to move it back. It'll maintain the dimensions and everything. Now we might actually want to increase the size. We want to decrease this size. We want to increase it this way a little bit, and then just move it over here like this. Rotate all the way around it. Make sure. So if a bullet happens to hit the barrel right here, right now it would not detect the collision. But I feel like if we extend the whole box out here, that would be kind of weird. So let's just say that you have to hit this box. We're going to keep it simple. You could do a mesh collider and it would perfectly go around everything, but that's not really the best for performance. If we have a lot of these tanks going on at once, we want to make it perform as well as possible. So here's our tank with our collider. What we're going to do is hit the apply button, which will apply this to our prefab. Now when we go to shoot the tank, every time we play the game, I don't want to wait for tanks to come all the way over here, all the way to the turret. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this tank, don't need to rename it, it's already clicked on, and we're going to bring it over here and put it right in front here. And then I'm actually going to change its speed to 1, because I want to be able to easily shoot this thing. I don't want to have to worry about it. Now if I go to my enemy manager, this is going to be spawning tanks in the distance. Right now, to avoid confusion, let's just set this spawn frequency to 1000. So, it'll still spawn tanks, but it'll be every 1000 seconds. Because I don't want the field flooded with tanks right now. We just want this one tank that we can focus on and make sure everything's performing well. So I'm going to go ahead and save the scene. Let's test the game. Now we can't actually take the tank out yet, but as you'll see, it is moving closer to us, and I'm going to shoot at it. And now is it okay? It is hitting it. See how it bounced up? It is hitting the tank, but it's very easy to shoot right over it. So what I'm going to do is later on we can maybe change this and have the turret be able to rotate up or down. That could add an element of difficulty. Or the easiest thing to do at this point is just to scale this tank up a little bit. Just make it a little bigger. Or not. I'm sure it's kind of in the ground. We're going to fix that later. Right now we just want to be able to take the tank out. Or what I could even do. The only reason I didn't think of this at first is because remember our script that spawns the tanks? That's going to have to be now changed to this new value. There's ways around that. We can change it in the future. But for right now, we're going to just have the tank like this. It's a little scaled up. We lifted it up so it'll match the ground. So here it comes. You can shoot at it, and the bullets will hit it. See how they're hitting the collider there? Now, of course, when they hit it, they're not really going to bounce off like this. So the next thing we want to do is we need to detect a collision. I'm going to show you how to do that, and then we're going to write the code after we detect the collision to make certain things happen. Now the bullet, we want it to disappear. We actually want it to explode or something cool, right? And then we want the tank to go out of commission. We can get into a hit point system, which is actually really easy to do. And I might actually just put that in the script here now. So in our vehicle script, that's the one that's attached to the tank. We're going to open our vehicle script. We're going to come here and we're going to use a method. This will load for me. We're going to say private void on collision enter. Now this is another method kind of like these up here. It's already built in and it's automatically called. These are actually private too. You can put private in front of that. You just don't have to. It's assumed that it's private. I like to actually write private, meaning that it's only for this script here. It can't be accessed anywhere else, for simplicity's sake. So private void on collision enter. Now I'm going to go to the scripting reference and show you. It tells you here what this is on collision enter, so you can always come back to this. Now there's another one called on trigger enter. We won't worry about that right now. It's just going to tell you that when two objects collide, it's going to pass in this collision type. So here's an example. We have our on collision enter collision, and that will give us information So you can go through things like the contact points and do different things with it. There's also other information too. If we click on collision, these are all the properties of the collision type, and we can use all these things. Generally what we're going to be doing is grabbing the game object, in this case because we just want to see what hit us, right? So we're just going to see, okay, which game object hit us, and it's going to be a bullet, and being that a bullet hit us, let's do something based on that. There's other things we can do from it too, but that's all we're interested in right now. So what we'll do here is we will pass in our collision type, and that means that when this is called, it's going to pass in this information based on the collision that happened. Okay, so there's something called a tag. I'm going to show you tags here real quick. You might already know what tags are. So if you go to an object like a turret bullet, you can go to tag here. This one is not tagged. There's different tags you can add. We're going to add a tag, and just go here, add, and let's kind of make this generic. Let's say projectile, because we might want to use it for other things too. So add that, and then go back to our turret bullet, select projectile. I'm going to go ahead and save the project so that prefab will save. Now this is important because we can easily check in the script the tag to see what it is. So what we'll do is, it's a string. We're going to create a string variable, string the tag equals, now here's where we're going to use our collision dot game object dot tag. So the game object here is the object that hit us, and you can see that in the reference. Game object whose collider you are colliding with. So that's the other object. So this is attached to the vehicle. So we want to know who hit us. Now at this point the only thing that can hit it is the bullet. So we're going to get the tag from what this is going to be, the bullet. Okay. Now the tag is a string type, as you can see there. So now we want to check. We want to use our if statement. Check if the tag equals, what did I say it was? Projectile. Now the reason we're checking this is because we're planning for the future where there might be other objects being thrown at us, or there might be a lot going on in the game, and other things might collide with each other, such as another tank or another vehicle, where we'd want something different to happen. So now this here is where we're going to make our magic happen. So we want the tank. I mentioned making a hit point system. So let's go ahead and do that. So up here, we're going to add another variable, public, so we can change it in the inspector. Int. It's going to be a whole number of hit points. And let's just call this hit points. And we'll initialize that at 100. Just not F. It's not is integer, so we don't need the F. Okay, so there's our hit points. Now the projectile, now we could get deep here, we could, and we probably will do this rather soon actually, is in here we could say how much damage it does, and then in here we'd be able to access this value in here, which we haven't created yet, and then it could do damage based on that. We're not going to get there quite yet. For right now, we're just going to say that it does a certain amount of damage. Okay, so if it gets hit, we're going to say hit points minus equals 50. So each hit does 50. All the projectiles are at the same at this point. Okay, so if it gets hit once, nothing's going to happen, right? It's just going to decrement that. Now what we could do is down here, we could have another if statement, and we could check if hit points is less than or equal to 0, right? Because it'll be hit once, and then it'll still have 50. 100 minus 50 is 50. Then when it's hit again, okay, so that first time it's going to check this, which won't be true. Then when it gets hit again, this will go down to 0. It'll say, is it less than or equal to 0? Which it will be. It'll be at 0. And then this is where we'll make the tank explode or something to that nature. Right now, let's just say, what do we want to make it do? Okay, well, to be very basic and corny, let's just destroy the thing. Destroy the game object. Okay. That's not what we want to do. We want it to look cooler than that, but we're just going to destroy the game object. So let's go ahead and check. So we've got this tank in front of us that we're going to test with. We're going to go ahead and point at the tank and shoot it. Okay, that's good because it should be at 50 hit points now. I can actually click on the tank, take a look, see hit points is down to 50. That's another nice thing about this too, is you can see when you test the game what's going on. So theoretically, when I shoot this next one, it should destroy it. And it did. It's gone. Okay, so our script is working so far. Let me check my time. Okay, we're only at 16 minutes, so we're okay. We can keep going. I'm having fun. Okay, so what do we need to add to this now? The bullets are just floating around. I mean, they're destroyed now, but they're just floating around. So I think they should be destroyed on contact. Now, here's what we can do. Right when it gets hit, it can do all this, right? It can get the tag, and then if it's a projectile, we know that we want to destroy it. So what we can do is just go ahead and say destroy, but we're not going to destroy the tank, which this is the vehicle script attached to the tank. We're going to destroy another game object, the game object of the projectile. So we can do collision.gameObject, right, which is a reference to the object of the thing that hit us, which is the projectile. So we're going to destroy that. Now we'll get to adding an explosion sound and spawning an explosion too. This is also where we would do that. But we're going to destroy the bullet right there, and then take the hit points. And then right here, I want to add some kind of a scoring function. Okay? So this is a good time to talk about what's called a singleton. We want a central script that's going to store information about the game that's going on in different locations. It's not going to be bound to a certain location. That's where I would keep track of a score. I'm used to making these scripts and calling them game manager. So what we're going to do, just like this enemy manager, we're going to make a game manager. So let's go ahead and create a new script. Game manager. I'm going to get to what that singleton is all about too. But first we have to start by creating the script. Okay, now we're going to create an empty game object. And we're going to call it game manager. Did I spell that right? Okay, game manager. We're going to attach this script to the game manager. Open the game manager. Now we want to be able to easily access this without having a reference to it. Now what I mean is, in this case, the only way we could access this thing is we have a reference to it. When it collided, it passed in this collision type, which has a reference to the game object. But in this case, I want to be able to just from anywhere in the game at any time access this game manager in a very easy way. So here's how we do that. We're going to say private static game manager underscore instance. This is just what I like to call it. This is actually a pretty common thing to call it this. Now what static means is that this isn't bound to that instance that I created. And what I mean by that is when I attach it to this object, this is an instance. Because I could create another object, kind of like the tanks. When there's a lot of tanks on the field, each tank is an instance, but it's all the same script. So in this case, this is the instance. But this variable being static means it's not bound to that instance. It's just bound to this class. You could call it a class variable also. Now that will make sense if it doesn't yet, which it took me a little bit to understand what that means. But it just means that you can access this specific variable without having an instance. Okay, so then what we need is public static game manager. Now notice I'm using this as a type because these are types. When we create these scripts, it's also a type, and you can create other instances of them. Now in this case it's not an instance, it's a variable that points to an instance, and that's why I'm calling this instance. Now this one, I'm going to capitalize it because this one is the public one, and I'm going to open and close brackets. Okay, so this is a variable, but we're going to add what's called a property. So we're going to say private set. Now what that means is you can only set this value. Basically this is just a variable on steroids. We're going to tell you how you can set its value and how you can get its value. Now private set means that it can only be set from within this script. Just open and close brackets. They like when you use brackets. Now actually above this we're going to say get open bracket return instance. Now keep in mind, if this is intimidating, all you really need to do is copy this code right here and use it whenever you want to make a singleton that you can access easily, which you'll see in a minute how that works. You don't have to understand what all this stuff means yet. It's just, this is how you make a singleton. Now some of you out there might have seen a different way to do it, and that's fine too. This is how I like to do it. So this means when you get this, when you call capital I instance, it's going to return this lower instance, lowercase with the underscore. It can't be set from anywhere except from in this script. Okay, now I'm going to come down here and I'm going to make a method called private void awake. I know, more new information, more intimidating information. Awake is called before start. It's another built-in method. So here we're going to set the value of instance equal to this. Now this is a variable. It's not really a variable, it's just it's a code word. It's a word that's saved specifically for, well, it is what it says. It's this. It means this script. This game object or game manager that we're working on right here, that's what this refers to. It's just the script that we're currently in. So it points to this script that we're currently in, which assigns this variable to the script that we're currently in. Now I know that's confusing. I know it doesn't make a lot of sense right now. But just trust me, this is going to be something you're going to want to use. And even if for a while you just copy this code and you run with it, that's fine. That's what I did, you know. So here we go. What that will do, I'm going to let this compile just to make sure I did that right. What that will allow us to do, and feel free to pause the video and go back and watch that again and just kind of, you know, absorb it. But it really will make more sense when we start using it, which we're going to do right now. Okay, so the vehicle, once it was destroyed, well, this would actually have to happen before it's destroyed. Okay, so right here, before we destroy it, we want to score a point so we can access the game manager, which I haven't actually put anything in the game manager. Okay, so just figure all this is at the top to create our singleton. We'll come down here, and this is where we're going to start our actual regular stuff. So now I can just make regular variables. So I can say public int score. Not going to set a value because it's going to start out as 0. So all we want to do is increment the score. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our vehicle script, and now all we have to do is type in game manager because it's now a type. All these classes are types, by the way. I could type in vehicle. That's a type. Now I can't use anything with it because we don't have an instance of it. But that's what the static variables do, is they allow you to do stuff without an instance. So game manager dot instance, because this is the one and only instance of the game manager. That's why it's called a singleton. There's only one instance of it. Game manager dot instance dot score. See how that works? Now we can say plus equals 1. But I'm going to show you something else cool. I know this is a lot of information, but here's something else cool. That plus equals 1 is the same as just doing plus plus, which means increment it by 1. That's just a really shorthand thing. And there's a lot of times when you need to increment things by 1, or if you did this, that's decrementing it by 1. So just plus plus, increment it by 1, and then destroy the tank. Now I'm just going to show you real quick that this works. I'm on my game manager here. We're going to see the score. So if I'm right here, shoot down the tank, and our score is now 1. So there we go. We've destroyed the tank. Now, did I destroy those bullets yet? I did. I did do that. That's another thing we had to test. So the bullets destroy as soon as it hits the tank. I didn't really make light of that, but as you can see, destroys as soon as you hit it. Okay, so that's that. We're now able to actually shoot down tanks. Now I think in the next tutorial I'm going to show you a more fun way to make the tank kind of break down, and you know, it'll look cool. We want to make it look cool, right? I'm just going to show you a cool way to make it look cool, if that makes sense. Okay, so thank you for watching. I hope you continue on as this gets more and more exciting, as you'll learn how to do more things. So I will see you in the next tutorial.